Hi friends, my name is Amber and this is a lovely yarn podcast. Welcome to my space here on YouTube. Today I want to do something a little bit different and I want to talk about a specific yarn that I really love using and that I think is great for spring and summer knitting, and that is Drops Belle. Now I've had lots of questions about Drops Belle because I have talked about it a lot on my podcast because I have used it quite frequently for my warmer weather knitting. And so I thought it would be fun to pull together 14 different patterns that I personally think would shine using the Drops Belle, and I wanted to present those to you all today. If you're not familiar with Drops Belle, it is a yarn that is, I think it is classified as a DK weight yarn, but I think you could also go into more like a light worsted. It is a blend of cotton, viscose, and linen. And I think that if you knit this yarn at the correct gauge, you get a beautiful, really nice garment with a beautiful drape. Keep in mind that Drops Belle is not a super elastic yarn because it is made up of plant fibers. So I personally like it best used in garments that you want to have some nice drape to, also garments that aren't overly structured, and also I probably would avoid knits that have a lot of ribbing. A little bit of ribbing is fine, as you will see. I do have some patterns that have some ribbing in it, but an all over ribbing, I don't think I would use the Drops Belle for, because the Drops Belle is not going to give you the same kind of elastic memory that a wool yarn would. Now these 14 patterns are all patterns that I've either knitted myself, I absolutely would love to knit, or I have made sure that other people on Ravelry have actually knitted these projects in the Drops Belle. If that sounds something that will be interesting to you, I hope that you stick around and watch this episode. I do also want to say that I just did a video, my latest podcast episode, I kind of touched on my thoughts on comparing Drops Belle to Sandnes Garn Line because they are very similar yarns. They have the same exact yarn content. I am actually going to be doing a deep dive into that and featuring, actually filming a standalone video on that here in the next month or so. So stay tuned for that if that's something that interests you. But having said that, I do want to say that Sandnes Garn Line and Drops Belle are actually I feel like you could swap those two yarns out. So these patterns are also going to work great for the Sandnes Garn Line as well. Okay, so let's get into the patterns. First up is the Tolsta tank by Rebecca Clow. Now I love this pattern. I'm actually currently knitting this pattern, but I'm doing the fingering weight version of this. And the reason I love this pattern so much is because of how customizable it is. I have never knitted Rebecca Clow's patterns until this particular one, and I am so very impressed. This pattern is written for either fingering weight yarn or DK weight yarn. I think her original sample was knit in the Sandnes Garn Line. And then not only do you have the different options with your gauge, but then you also have 3 different neckline options. So you have the vest version, which is the one I am knitting. Then there is a square neck version and also a V-neck version. The nice thing about this pattern, and I think this pretty much goes across the board with maybe all of Rebecca's patterns, is that when you purchase this, you get a bunch of different files. So you can actually pick the one that you want. For instance, I am knitting the fingering weight vest style. So I went to all my files, I chose that one to download to my phone, and that is the only one I have to look at. So I'm not having to wade through pages and pages of knitting instructions to follow the fingering weight vest style version that I want to knit. So I really appreciate that as a knitter. And if you don't know what version you want to knit, you can wait, because this is a bottom-up pattern. So you're going to start with the ribbing and work your way up, and you have time to think about how you want to style your neckline. Also, it's kind of a blank canvas, and I think that a lot of her patterns are. So I am striping my version, but you could do a solid, you could throw some eyelets in. I feel like there's so many opportunities to get creative with this particular pattern. Honestly, I feel like this could be one of those patterns that now that I'm making my first one, I'm already planning ahead to my next version. I feel like this could be a pattern that I have in my pattern library that I could just whip out a bunch of tanks and just every single one look different. Gregoria Fibers designed this next top. This is called the Vilma top, and this pattern is actually written for Aran weight yarn. I've been looking at this pattern for a while, and I've really liked the look of it. I like the details on the body, the little eyelets. I think it looks like little flowers. And then you have some striping done by, I think, maybe purling. But the thing that I was surprised about is that there are actually 17 different projects on Ravelry for this particular pattern where people have used the Drops Belle. And I was looking at that because I was surprised, because Drops Belle is classified as a DK weight or a light worsted yarn. And so I was surprised, but I don't know. I can't guarantee this is going to work out for you, but I feel like if you're willing to take that chance and work a little bit, and definitely do a gauge swatch before you start this one so that you can adjust your needles, I think that this would actually work. And I really liked the look of this. If you look at the sample of this particular pattern, it's definitely looking a bit more structured. She used Filcolana Peruvian, which would be I would assume an 100% Peruvian wool. So it's gonna definitely have more structure. If you want a light drapey version of this Vilma top, I think the Drops Belle would work beautifully for it. And if you look at all the pictures, and I was also reading down through the project pages to make sure that nobody had major complaints with pairing this yarn with this particular pattern, I think it would be a really stunning summer version of this top. The next pattern is the Anker's Summer Shirt. This is a pattern by Petite Knit, and I've actually personally knit this pattern in the Drops Belle. I'm wearing one version here, and I will have to put the color number down below because I cannot remember what color this is. And then I also knit another version. I think this is called Mauve. I knit this one in the Drops Belle as well. Again, my colors will be linked down below. And can you see the drape of this yarn? Sandnes Garn Line has a very similar drape, and I will be showing you that here a little bit later because I do have a garment knit in the Sandnes Garn Line. But this is it's just beautiful drape, and I really appreciate a good drapey summer garment. So this Anker's Summer Shirt is such a classic piece for me, especially this one in this like off-white beigey color. I wear this thing so often. I knit this one just a tad bit cropped. It's not terribly cropped. Like, I can wear this with jeans, but I wear this one so much in the warmer months. This pattern is worked from the top down, and you make this beautiful circular yoke, and this is just ribbing that you're working increases in. And I'm trying to remember if there are short rows in the back. I cannot remember. It's been a while since I've made one of these, but I really love this. I cannot recommend this pattern more. Also, there are more than 28 pages of projects of this particular pattern made with the Drops Belle on Ravelry. So that is saying a lot there right by itself. So honestly, I think this is probably one of my top recommendations for a garment that is going to be pretty much a perfect match for the Drops Belle. Now we have the Magna Flora by Elisa Hartzell. The designer actually designed and knitted her version of this in the Sandnes Garn Line, and so right there you know that this is going to be a really good match for the Drops Belle. What I love about this pattern is it's just so beautifully feminine. It's got that nice big floral lacework in the yoke. It's definitely going to be a lightweight and breathable garment for you to wear. It's knitted on size US 9 needles with a gauge of 14 stitches. So right there too, you're gonna have a breathable fabric, even more so than this particular pattern, which I think maybe I knitted on a size US 7. So it's gonna be nice and breezy. I would wear this over a dress or a cami with a skirt, or even a cami with a pair of shorts. I think it would be really versatile and still have that really feminine, beautiful look to it. And as you work down from the yoke down into the bottom, there's even some nice, beautiful little lace work along the hem, which makes a little extra touch to this pattern as well. The next pattern is by the Knit Pearl Girl, and this is the Crescendo top. And her recommended yarn for this pattern is actually the Drops Belle. So this is a pretty delicate design. Again, I love that yoke. I'm a sucker for lace yokes. It's worked from the top down. The standout is definitely the diamond lace pattern in the yoke, and that lace is fully charted. So after you knit that beautiful lace on the yoke, it transitions into a basic stockinette sweater. So I feel like this would be a nice mixture of some interesting knitting as well as some mindless knitting for you to do in this spring. She also includes some nice thoughtful details, such as the option to add short rows to help with the fit, as well as she gives some variations on the hems that you can utilize as well. Not to be redundant, but this next pattern is another one by Rebecca Clow, and there's actually several featured in this particular episode by her because I'm just so impressed with her pattern writing and her pattern organization. But this is a new one. This was just released this month, so April 2026. It is called the Nostie tee, and I love the texture on this. It has all over lace and ribbing details, and so that to me gives it a lot of visual interest, but still makes it very wearable. It is worked from the bottom up, and then eventually you get to where you're gonna split for the sleeves, and you're gonna do the shoulders and the back flat, and then you'll join, and then you'll pick up and add your sleeves later. This is also another very versatile pattern because the finishing options are also, there's multiple finishing options that you can have. You can knit this sleeveless, you can knit it short sleeve, you can do a long sleeve version, make it more of a pullover for the cool summer mornings and evenings. And it also comes in both a DK and a fingering weight option. So again, lots of versatility with this pattern. Okay, please do not be upset with me, but I have another Rebecca Clow pattern. I think this one and then one more after. But I never want to assume that everyone knows about bigger designers. I would say Rebecca Clow is a pretty well-known designer in the knitting community, but I know from doing other pattern roundups that I will sometimes say, I almost didn't feature this pattern because I know this designer is so big, and probably all of you have seen this before. And I've had often so many viewers say, actually, no, I've never seen that pattern or heard of that designer, so thank you for featuring it. So with that being said, I do want to feature the Tolsta tee, which is like, it was written before the Tolsta tank. The Tolsta tee, though, is another one of Rebecca's patterns that are extremely versatile. You can change things. She kind of holds your hand when you're adjusting and customizing this particular tee. It also comes in DK weight and fingering weight, and she gives the options for short sleeve, long sleeve. It's a classic raglan style, so if you like raglan increases, this might be the one for you. Also, if you have a larger bust size, she does include the option to insert bust darts and do some bust shaping, so that would help accommodate knitters who do have a larger bust size. And there are 12 different pages of projects on Ravelry for this particular pattern that have users that use the Drops Belle. So if you need some inspiration, you can go check those out. But honestly, again, just such a versatile, such a customizable blank canvas to get creative with your knitting. And again, another pattern that I feel like I could make one and just make a bunch more that looked completely different. Okay, I have another pattern by the Knit Pearl Girl, and this is the Farnham tee, and I've probably talked about this in a past episode because I actually have already cast this on and then I had ripped it out. This was maybe 2 years ago. I think it's when this pattern was first released. Now, I understand that it's got the stripes just like the Tolsta tee, but I wanted to include this one because the construction is different and the style and fit are different. This is a drop shoulder. The Tolsta tee was a raglan, so much different than a drop shoulder, and you probably realize that if you're a knitter, but even if you're new to garment knitting, that is a totally different style. I really liked dropped shoulder designs on me. I think that they flatter my figure, and so I bought this pattern right away. When I cast this pattern on, I realized probably 4 inches into it that I did not like the yarn match, and I think I had used Barocco Remix for that, but I actually just placed and received an order of a big bag of Drops Belle yarn because I am gearing up to start to continue my spring and summer knitting. But let me show you what I'm going to knit this in next, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this pattern. So my first one I'm going to do is the pearl color, which is like a creamy white, and I'm going to stripe it with the dandelion color. I think this is gonna make really fun project. I was actually inspired by a Ravelry project page to do these colors together. And then I love blue, it's my favorite color. It brings out the blue in my eyes. So then I want to knit one with this dark denim. I think it's dark blue jean denim. And I'm going to stripe in the pearl color. So have this as my main color and this one as my stripe. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this particular pattern. So this is a top-down pattern, and what you do is you start in the back and you knit your back, and then you go and you pick up the stitches for your shoulders and you start working down at the front, and then you eventually join under the arms and you knit in the round until the end, and then you go back and you put your sleeves on. I love the casual look of this particular shape of garment. I think that I will wear something like this a lot. When I look at other pieces that I've bought in my wardrobe, like from the store, I am often drawn to t-shirts with this type of style. Up next is the Clover tee. This is a pattern knit by Lee Knit or Lena Holm Samso. This is actually a pattern that was designed using the Sandnes Garn Line, so slip that Drops Belle right in there. It would make a perfect substitution, and honestly, there's, I think, 2 to 3 pages of projects on Ravelry of people who have used the Drops Belle. So lots of inspiration if you want to see the color of the particular yarn that you're thinking of. This is honestly just a very simple tee with a little bit of lace work in the top portion of the t-shirt, and then it's all stockinette. But I like that simplicity. It's like just flowers just randomly dropped on the yoke of this sweater, and it's just so sweet. It's a sweet looking tee, and it's an elevated tee, right? It's not just a plain t-shirt. It's got that beautiful lace, and again, it looks very feminine. And so I think that the bell, just the fact that it was designed with Sandnes Garn Line in mind, is going to be great. It's going to give a nice drape, and it would look cute as a longer shirt where you could just tuck it into your pants. But I also think this would be really cute as a cropped version that you could wear over your summer dresses. This next one is a really lovely, relaxed summer tee. It is called the Ice Maker, and it is a design by Elizabeth Smith. It's worked seamlessly from the bottom up. It has interesting lace detail along the bottom. It has the V-neck, which I love a good V-neck, and it also has the drop shoulder construction. The pattern is designed for DK or light worsted summery yarn. It also comes with the pattern comes with a really helpful tip page, and that includes some information on things like sizing and gauge adjustment and yarn recommendations. So that makes this pattern feel really approachable for somebody who's maybe just getting into summer garment knitting. I just recently talked about a pattern by Coco Amore. I think it was called the Maritime Tee. And then I found this one, which is another pattern by Coco Amore. It is called the Seaside. And I know I am just a stripes girl. I love the stripes. I love the maritime look. I really appreciate that style of clothing. I think it's classic and it's timeless, and I've always enjoyed wearing stripes. So I saw this one, and I think I actually found this one when I was looking at the Drops Belle Ravelry page and looking at the different colors and what they actually looked like knitted up into garments. I think that's how I came upon this particular pattern. But I basically just love everything about the look of this. I love her sample, those colors. I think she did like a beige and a pinkish color, and she may have used the Sandnes Garn Line. I'm pretty sure her sample was knit in Sandnes Garn Line. It has the relaxed, looser fit, but not like too loose, not oversized at all. It's worked from the top down. You start working flat to shape the back and the shoulders, and then you knit in the round, you join, and then you do some raglan increasing before you go ahead and knit the rest of the body. She also includes several different finishing options for the neckline. I think she includes a folded collar and then a more polished Italian bind off if that is something that you would prefer the look of. I just think this pattern is really wearable and something that I would reach for often. And if you're considering knitting this pattern in the Drops Belle, there are currently 3 pages on Ravelry of projects that were done in the Drops Belle. So that might be a really good place for inspiration as far as figuring out what colors you want to do your stripes in. Okay, and then the next pattern is, I've talked about this pattern a lot. I don't know how you couldn't know about this pattern, to be completely honest, and I almost didn't include it for that reason, but I have made so many Renunculus sweaters with the Drops Belle that I just felt like I need to include this because this is a really good pattern match for this particular yarn. Now you're going to knit it at a bit of a different gauge. I think the pattern is actually written for US 10 needles, and I've had so many viewers reach out and say, how do you get your Renunculus knits to look like you do? Because if you look at the sample, it's very oversized, it's knitted at a very large gauge, so it's very open and airy. I would have never been attracted to the pattern by that sample picture, but I had seen someone who had knit it at a tighter gauge, and I was like, oh, I love that so much. And so I have knit, I don't even know how many Renunculus sweaters at this point in my knitting journey, but I have 2 here right now that I'm going to show you that were knit using, one is in the Drops Belle and the other one is knit using Sandnes Garn Line, just so you can kind of see. But this is my Drops Belle version, knit in the petrol colorway. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Look at this drape. Okay, and if you're interested in knitting this particular pattern in this yarn, I can tell you that I have knit every single one of my Renunculus sweaters with the Drops Belle using either a US 7 or 8. Just play around because it's going to depend also on how tight or loose of a knitter you are. So do a gauge swatch. Anytime you're knitting way off gauge, I mean, let's be honest, we should always be doing gauge swatches, but we don't always do gauge swatches, right? But anytime you're really knitting off gauge from what the gauge for the pattern is, I do always knit a gauge swatch, and I recommend that you do the same. But do your little gauge swatch. I may have even gone down for one of them. I may have even gone down to a US 6, but I think that would be too tight of a gauge, actually. I think this was a 7 or an 8 needle, and look at that. So beautiful. But it is a yoke sweater with this beautiful lace detail and then some other textures here that you use various knitting techniques to get. I always just cast on the largest number of stitches. I know that is confusing to some people, but I just cast on the largest number. And the nice thing about this is that, well, there is short row shaping in the front, in the back and the front. I do both. People ask me that question a lot. I always do both of the short row shaping. But what I really like about this is that I don't have to pick my size until I'm down through this yoke portion, and then you do some raglan increases. So if I'm knitting this and I'm like, oh, this looks like it's going to be small, I can just keep increasing in the raglan section, and I can actually now if you're knitting this for the very first time, I would not recommend this, but a lot of times I'll just treat my little back section as my swatch. But I've knit this pattern a lot, so I don't know that I would recommend everyone to do that, but it is just so beautiful. And I put an I-cord edge on this one, and then on this one I made the sleeve even shorter, and I did a 1x1 ribbing. So it's another pattern that you can kind of mess around with. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter. And this pattern is marketed to work with a very wide range of gauges and yarn weights. You just have to be willing to do your gauge swatch and kind of adjust as you go. 2 more patterns to go, and this next one is the Corin cardigan, again by Rebecca Clow. Last one from her, I promise. I really want to knit this. I love the look of this cardigan, and I actually need a lightweight summer cardigan. I don't have one. There are many times I put on a summer dress and that has like just the cami straps, the little like sleeveless, and I'm like, I really need a sweater that I could wear over this. And I think that this would be perfect. A short sleeve version and a long sleeve version. It's all over lace. It's worked from the bottom up. I wonder if maybe all of her patterns are, because every one I've featured here today is worked from the bottom up. It has the drop shoulder construction, so it gives it a little more of a relaxed look, casual look. She includes options for a V-neck, a crew neck, and then the different lengths for the sleeves. I personally think I would knit the V-neck. I prefer V-neck cardigans overall. There are multiple projects on Ravelry that used the Drops Belle for it, and I think that although if you would knit this in a wool yarn, you would get a more structured piece. Again, you're gonna have, knitting this in the Drops Belle is going to give you a more loose and drapey. So keep that in mind. That might not be something that you want. That is something that I actually would prefer if I'm going to be wearing it in the warmer months of the year. But I just think there's so much versatility, and I want a long sleeve and I want a short sleeve version of this. Okay, last one is the Olga sweater by Petite Knit. Now this, her sample was knit in a yarn that was a plant, or excuse me, an animal-based fiber. Okay, last pattern. This is actually a long sleeved sweater. This is the Olga sweater by Petite Knit, and she actually knit her sample in Sandnes Garn Pure Gint. But I have knit this pattern, and I knit it a scrappy version for my daughter. You'd have to go back several episodes. Maybe I'll link it down below if you want to see my version of this. It was a fingering weight held with mohair scrappy version. Had a lot of fun knitting this, and I really fell in love with this pattern. Now the reason I included it in the warm weather knitting patterns is because I think it would make a great stripy, casual, oversized, comfy summer sweater. I live in Pennsylvania, so sometimes in the summer, we have summers that we have some cooler weather. Then other summers we don't have cooler weather. It's kind of unpredictable here as far as what our seasons are going to be like. You know, we have very distinct seasons, but there is some variation in those seasons. So I was imagining having this sweater knit in the plant-based fiber, which I would use the Drops Belle. The gauge for this pattern is a DK weight gauge. So I think the Drops Belle would work well for this. And there were actually many people on Ravelry that knitted this sweater in that. And I think it would be a good summer version of a long sleeve sweater, like just a sweater to pull on when you go outside and it's chilly in the morning, or if you're out on your porch or your deck in the evening and it's chilly, when you go to the beach and you're going down to the water and it's really windy. Again, perfect to pull on for that. Also very versatile. Like I said, mine was a scrappy version, but I really love the striped version, but you could just make a solid color too. I like the fit of this particular sweater, which it is drop sleeve, so that does kind of explain, because I am a sucker for drop sleeved construction. Okay, and that wraps this episode up. I thank you guys so much. Please let me know, which of these patterns do you think that you would knit, or do you have another recommendation for a pattern that you have either knitted in the Drops Belle or you think would be a good match, because I would love to know. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this video inspirational and helpful, and until next time, happy knitting. Goodbye.